Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for the 34th meeting of the Board of Lake County Commissioners. Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority, and may we use in our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Here. Okay, we have several meeting minutes before us. June 17, 2021, June 24, 2021, June 22, 2021, and July 29, 2021. Do we have a motion to accept same waiving reading thereof? Please.
So moved.
Thank you. Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Okay, this brings us to our first public comment portion. We have many guests with us here today, and I'd like to start off with a very important swearing in. So let's see. Treasurer-elect Zern, I believe our prosecutor Charles Colson has agreed to swear you in today, sir?
Yes, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's
Excellent,
been a 10-month wait.
10-month wait, there you go, there you go. A little longer than having a child. Did you want to swear in there, or where did you want to?
Wherever you want.
Well, Commissioner Plechnik is kind of a choreographer to these things. Right there, a good
I
spot?
think right here would work because you'll be clearly on camera.
Oh, there you go, there you go.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here photobombing both of you, so.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Michael Zern,
I, Michael Zern,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the Office of Treasurer
the duties of the Office of Treasurer
for Lake County, Ohio.
for Lake County, Ohio.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, please.
Then what I will do is I will file this.
26. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Stand for just a second.
Oh, this is true. Hold on.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Mike, no meeting is complete without John and a presentation here. So.
We're doing double duty today.
Yes, definitely double duty.
I have to say, I think all of Lake County is excited to be welcoming Mike Zern to the position of treasurer, not because he won an election, not because he's the most competent, careful, fiscally conservative public servant we could ask for the role. He certainly is those things, but because we already know him as someone who's contributed so much to his community. A few days ago, Mike and I had the honor of presenting on behalf of the Board of Commissioners a certificate to Willow Praise Church and Pastor Larry Bogreneff, recognizing them for providing over 23,000 lunches to children in need starting March of last year in response to the COVID pandemic and the government shutdowns. When the schools closed down and stopped providing lunches, Mike Zern, his pastor, his church stepped up and said, we need to do more. We need to fill that void. And so the Board of Commissioners wanted to recognize that in a small way. But what Mike didn't know is we wanted to give him that recognition in addition to his church. And I just quickly read that the Board of Lake County Commissioners offer this certificate of recognition celebrating the ministry of the Free Kids Lunch Program helped by the Honorable Michael Zurin, now our new treasurer of Lake County. Whereas the Honorable Mike Zurin has a long history of serving the people of Lake County. And whereas Willow Praise Church of Willowick, under the leadership of Pastor Larry Bogerneff, along with Painesville Assembly of God, the Salvation Army in Painesville, Paula Price of 100 Youth That Care, East Lake Councilman James Overstreet, East Lake Councilman and Pastor Todd Gulley of Willow Lake Church of the Nazarene, Lake County Treasurer-elect and former East Lake Councilman Michael Zurin, former Timberlake Councilwoman Sherry Falkenberg, Willowick Councilman Charlie Malta, Asa Cox of Century 21 Homes, Revolution Pizza, Master Pizza, the East Lake Women's Club, and many donors and volunteers came together to donate and provide free lunches to kids in need when local schools and school lunch programs closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas since March of 2020, over 23,000 free lunches were provided to children in need in Lake County, along with much needed shoes, socks, winter coats, and backpacks. And whereas these selfless volunteers, small businesses, churches, and community organizations went above and beyond to take care of our Lake County family with special celebrations for Easter, Halloween, and Christmas in July, we, the Board of Lake County Commissioners, congratulate the Honorable Michael Zurin for his exemplary commitment and unwavering passion in feeding the hungry, and extend our best wishes for continued success in his ministry of recognizing and meeting the needs of the Lake County community. Here's something for your new office, Mike.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And I did want to just say one more thing. The recent backpack distribution with the Salvation Army, we went over 1,300 backpacks. That just happened a few weeks ago, and it was just phenomenal. We actually covered the whole county with the Salvation Army and numerous school systems. Went out to them and made sure that the kids had backpacks and were ready for school so they could succeed this year. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. Congratulations.
Also joining us today, we have our friends from Perry Township, Perry Township Trustees. I believe they are here to lend support to item number 8. Folks, did you want to dive on in and share your thoughts? And thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. You bet. With me, I'm Bob Dawson, Chairman, Perry Township Trustees, and with me, fellow trustees Rick Amos and Nancy Steele today. And we're here to publicly thank Clerk of Courts Faith Andrews for funding and the commissioners for developing and offering the COPS grant. We've executed our side of the COPS agreement that's on your agenda this morning. We'll be funding 2 deputies, and along with the 2 that you'll be funding, we will effectively bring back a police presence in Perry Township. And we'll now be able to reintroduce regular police patrols to our community, which have been missing for 10 to 12 years. They were suspended due to a lack of funding. Your timing on this program is impeccable. It syncs up with our ability to use American Rescue Act monies to fund our part of this agreement. As you may know, townships and other non-entitled public entities had to fight for their share of the Rescue Act funds, but we're over that hurdle, and I'm proud to tell you we have our first year's allocation in the bank. You know, I feel like it's a bit of a miracle that this is all occurring, and I can tell you it is monumental for Perry Township, because there is nothing more important than providing for a safe and secure community where we can keep our homes and raise our children. We also want to thank Frank Liambruto for his part of this and his support. You know, for us, Frank is not only our sheriff, he is a resident, our constituent, he's a neighbor, and he's our friend. And we could not be more excited in Perry to move forward on this initiative with Frank as our lead. So thanks to everyone that allowed this to happen. Thank you so much.
Bless you. That's really kind. We appreciate the gratitude. We appreciate your taking advantage of this tremendous opportunity. I can say, speaking for myself, working with Painesville Township as the pilot project on all this, and working with our sheriff and his team, approaching Faith Andrews and saying, hey, there are no state or federal dollars out there. Can you help? And she didn't hesitate. Faith Andrews is a true servant of the people. She sees the value in this, and we are so pleased that you two see the value, and you're really good servants. Having grown up in Perry Township, this is exciting. These are all good things. Gentlemen, anything you want to add?
Mr. President, I would just say that we're grateful to have the opportunity to work with our clerk of courts and Perry Township to provide the COPS grant and to help to bring back regular road patrol and policing in their community. We recognize that as the townships have prospered, they've grown, and that increases the need for safety. When other communities have unfortunately said we should defund the police, Lake County has stepped up to defend them, support them, and as a result, we've had a safer, stronger community. That's one of the big reasons why we've seen so much growth throughout Lake County. As one of the few communities in Northeast Ohio that increased in population in the census. But we recognize that that job never ends. Our township trustees, commissioners, countywide officials, and sheriff always have to be working hard to keep Lake County safe. And I can't thank our township trustees enough for being the very first municipality, the first township to take advantage of the COPS grant to benefit their community. And we look forward to many years of working together as we improve the safety and maintain the fact, and I say it's a fact, that this is the best place to live, work, play, and retire, not just in Ohio, but the world. We know it, and we're going to keep it that way, and I think that today is a really big part of that. At the end of the day, we can have the best attractions, the most jobs and businesses, but if we're not safe, it won't stay. So I really want to praise the visionary leadership of our Board of Commissioners, President Hamercheck in particular, for proposing the COPS grant, for the township trustees being the first to take advantage of it, and our sheriff for always pushing for a better, safer community.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Young?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, there's nothing more important than having our communities feel secure in where they live, their employment, and being able to walk the streets at night and know that there are police patrolling their streets, police assigned to their neighborhoods. I always say that economic development has to be our #1 priority in Lake County. What are the 3 most important things in Lake County? Jobs, jobs, and more jobs. 3 things. But security reigns over all of those. If people don't feel secure in their homes, with their families, with their children, with their schools, nothing works. So, and that's a huge draw for anybody we'd like to see relocate to Lake County. So this is a great program, and I'm so glad Perry's taking advantage of it. There's a lot of wisdom in that. I know it wasn't an easy decision for you, but I believe you came to the right one. So thank you. Thank you for making Lake County more secure and a better place to raise a family.
Thank you, Commissioner. And, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask Clerk of Courts Faith Andrews if you'd care to share any thoughts, because I know you're big on safety, but what most people don't realize, you're also big on economic development, and you get it from a business perspective. You get it. So, if you
I came from the private sector, so there's that. But economic and workforce development too. Workforce development begins with safety and safe communities. People are not going to move themselves and their families and their businesses to Lake County if they cannot thrive. I love Lake County, and as I agree with the Commissioner John Plechnik on several things he said, it's the best place to live. Lake County is the best place on earth to live, work, and play, I believe. I love it here, and I'm happy to be able to support our law enforcement community because, again, as the professor said, we do not defund the police here in Lake County. We do not. This funding will meet an immediate need. While Perry Township works to provide, and they've mentioned some of their plans here, to provide a mechanism for fully funding these additional deputies at the conclusion of the COPS grant in 2025. The hard work and dedication of my stellar staff enables me, the clerk, the clerk's office, to be able to help fund this important pilot grant program with Perry Township and the commissioners and the Lake County Sheriff. I'd like to introduce one of those hardworking employees today that I brought with me. Chris Raines, would you like to come up and say hi? Chris is a supervisor for Title Central. She's our bookkeeper for all the title operations. And thank you, Chris.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Everyone at the Lake County Title Bureaus for your hard work. The wonderful customer service you provide the people of Lake County. This would not be possible without you.
Well, thank you. That's my pleasure.
That's all I have, gentlemen.
I love it. Thank you. And Sheriff Liam Bruno, if you want to get the final word on this, you're the one going to be working with your team to provide the activities there. As the hush comes over the crowd.
I know Faith said she came from the public sector. I guess I come from the religious sector. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you could say that.
What Perry's doing today is part of a larger effort, and I think that's a collaborative that's going on between really our townships in terms of policing. And it's a reflection of what we're seeing across Lake County, which makes us a much safer community, not only locally in our townships, but in ourselves as a county. Is not only are the townships putting adequate policing in those areas to, I think proactive patrols are the most important. We can be reactive and respond to crime and do that quite professionally, but being proactive means having people patrol on the streets. When you do it, sends a message to the criminal community, you're not wanted here. And it all depends on what professionalism that patrol is. And if it's professional, I know that as a whole, when we talk to criminals, because that's what we do in our profession, they say, I don't want to come to Lake County and get caught. When I get caught in Lake County, I know that I'm going to go before a judicial system that's very active, and I will be held accountable for the crimes that I commit in Lake County. And if they're large crimes, I'll go to prison over it. I may not happen in another county, but in Lake County, that happens. In terms of our townships, the fact that the townships work together, in part sharing resources through the Lake County commissioners, it gives quite a wide range of resources that can be brought to any township that we deal with as a sheriff's office. So I think this is a great movement moving forward, and we look forward to doing active patrols again in Perry Township. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, continuing on with our public comment portion, do we have anyone in the audience wishing to address the board in this first public comment section? No takers? Very good. Madam Clerk, moving on with the agenda items. I'm sorry. The slides. I'm being advised that our county engineer has some slides for us, so I was looking for the puppet show, so we'll go with the slideshow.
You want to do it now?
Yeah.
Wait.
You good?
Switch it to the end of the meeting. All right.
What's your pleasure? Okay, we're up. Okay.
I'm always ready. Okay. All right. Where is it?
I think we both got thrown off our games here.
Okay, earlier this year, the county's, well, actually, over the last 2 or 3, 4, 5 years, our salt facility at our main garage, Blackbrook, has been kind of falling apart badly, and it's also small. Over the years, you know, we've had a lot of trouble with when we have a big snowfall. You can't get the salt delivered because of the fact that everybody runs out at about the same time. So everybody's fighting for trucks. This past spring, we've experienced off and on a lot of problems with getting CDL drivers. Everybody is, so they're even going to be less available. So we decided that, well, all right, let's give it up and let's build a new facility. Well, the first problem we have with that is that we punched holes all over Blackbrook and the soils are really super bad. And they were talking about digging 8 foot of ground out and filling it back with stone in order to be supportive for any kind of normal facility. We found on the internet a facility that is much lighter, much better, and would work for our funny soils without spending $100,000 on nothing before we get started. So the engineer's office also decided, well, we'll design this ourselves, which we have, and we will put this whole thing together. We will buy a lot of the materials direct. We will hire a couple of contractors to do certain types of labor for this facility, and we went on to that government, whatever it is, that Lake County participates in, and fortunately the facilities that we were looking at were on that list, so we had a direct purchase through the government list, and we got started. So this is the general site that we began on, and that old parking lot was where we decided to put this particular facility. Next slide. So we got started. We hired our first labor contractor to come in and dig the basic foundation for the piers that we were going to support the structure with, and to start dig out the old parking lot and put about 24 inches of stone back in and for support. Next slide. Then the contractor that we purchased the building, he came in and built the piers that you see there. He did that in about 3 days, and then we had about a 28-day wait period for the concrete to cure. Next slide. Here's another picture of that process being done, and then we started what those walls are not really walls. They're movable, very large Jersey barriers. Jersey barriers are the things that you see on the highway that are temporary barriers when they're trying to do construction. These are 8 foot high, and it spreads the load on their little pedestals over a much larger area than would a normal wall and foundation. Next slide. Then the company came in and they started putting up the lattice work, what you see to support the roof. You see going up on the left, pretty much up on the right. They did this in about 5 days. Next slide. Okay, this is a video, a couple-minute video of how they pulled the skin across the top. Go ahead and start the video. You go down the bottom. There you go. You can see this. What they're doing is it has a little track that's circular and with an opening at the top, and then they sew rope into the edges, and then they pull that rope right through the track, and they start at the bottom and just pull it up in one piece all the way around in each of the sections that melts together. Okay, it should be done here in a second. Looks like it's done. Next slide. Okay, and that's what it looks like when it's pretty much basically done, and then we started to do the final grading and the paving and so forth of the area. Next slide. Another view with it pretty much moving along complete. It's all our stone, a large area that we need to turn around, big trucks around and work in. Next slide. And that's what it looks like from a distance. Next slide. They're in there laying the asphalt on the inside. Next slide. And that's pretty much what it looks like. Now, it's really a very impressive facility. It will hold 4,000 tons of salt plus. With our existing facilities at 2, a little bit at Madison, a little bit at Leroy, we'll be able to impound 7,000 tons of salt, which will pretty much last us the full winter. If a community gets in a little trouble and they can't get salt during one of our major snowstorms, we feel that we will have enough to be able to bail them out with a truck or two here and there. So we will keep this full. We will also be able to take advantage of pricing. We bid our own salt, and there is an overlap. If the new bids come in higher than the old bids, we simply fill it up with the old bids and tell the new bids, well, you just got to wait till the end of the season. Every once in a while, ODOT does do a summer fill-up, and they'll sell you some salt pretty cheap, and we will be able to take advantage of that. So overall, it will help our department and actually all of Lake County. So it was an exciting project. Our guys did some of the work. And overall, we saved about $100,000 on the project. Not the $100,000 on the foundation and stuff, but just by doing it ourselves and hiring contractor labor, buying it with through our bid process of materials. So that's what we did this year.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Any questions for an engineer?
Mr. President?
Sir.
No questions. Just want to say thank you for once again coming under budget and over delivering. This will be a great asset for Lake County, and I think that everyone is excited that just like when you buy a huge new freezer at home so you can take advantage of the deals, we now have a wonderful facility to hold salt and buy it at the cheapest possible price. It's also good for safety because we won't run out. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm looking to Madam Clerk. Okay to proceed? Thank you, ma'am. Item 1.
In the Utilities Department, resolution certifying the Lake County Department of Utilities unpaid sewer service, water, and administrative charges to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Sewer Operating Fund and Project Fund 596, Deerfield Relief Sewer Project 366S.
Move to approve.
Second. Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring appropriation in Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing and transferring appropriations in Lake County Department of Utilities Water Operating Fund.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of an engineering agreement with CT Consultants Incorporated for the Red Creek Sewerage Improvement Project 280S for the Lake County Department of Utilities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Commissioner's Office, resolution revising the Lake County Board of Commissioners regular meeting schedule.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution reappointing Timothy C. Brotzman, Ivan Valentik, and Rudy Vaselko III to the Lake County Planning Commission for terms expiring August 14th, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between the Lake County Board of Commissioners on behalf of the Lake County Sheriff's Office and the Perry Township Board of Trustees for police protection services.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President, once again, we extend our thanks to our Clerk of Courts, Faith Andrews, and all of our staff for returning enough money to the county to make this program possible. We thank the Perry Township Trustees for recognizing the importance of supporting our police. We thank our sheriff for being flexible and working to hire on more deputies and provide that coverage that is so needed in the community. And we really thank all of our local governments for coming together to support the police and make Lake County the safest, best place to live, work, retire, and raise a family.
Thank you, Commissioner. If I could just echo and amplify that, I would be remiss if I didn't add to the gratitude and thanks extended to our friends from the Township. Our 3 Township Trustees from Perry Township. This is bold, it is appropriate, and the turnaround time from when this proposal was offered, accepted, and bringing us here today, amazing. Typically government works at a glacial speed. Usually there's petty pecks and quarrels that always get in the way, and you had none of that. This has been an absolute refreshing example of being good stewards, and I offer you high praise. You're serving your community well. You get it. You understand that there is a need, and you are working with us to fill that need, and I commend each of you. So with that, unless my colleagues have anything else to add?
I really like the fact that thanks to all the different folks that contributed, this was done within the county's budget. It was very important. It's a wonderful thing, and it was done within the budget. So I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving the uniform administrative requirements for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 Advisory Panel.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $1,707,138.81.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $3,127,221.70.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations to various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to departmental reports. Utilities. Randy?
No report today.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Job and Family Services. Suzanne?
Good morning.
Again, before we go, thank you very, very much
Oh,
from
gosh.
all residents of Perry, not only the township, but the 2 villages who also will benefit from this. So,
Oh,
thank you
gosh.
very much.
Thank you,
for all.
folks. Thank you.
We love Perry Township.
Thank you. Thank you.
Job and Family Services has received some good news out of Columbus over the last couple of days that the state will be providing additional funding to county agencies to administer the SNAP program, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This additional funding is to support the increase of work as a result of the pandemic for federal fiscal years 21, 22, and 23. These funds are supposed to be used to increase the number of staff to administer the SNAP program or support overtime of current staff or establish incentives for staff timeliness and accuracy. So we're very grateful for this additional funding. We're hoping to receive additional information over the next few days, which will explain how the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services will distribute these funds to county agencies.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anything for Suzanne? Ma'am, thank you. Okay, moving on to County Administrator. Jason Boyd?
Good morning, Commissioners. I want to thank you for resolutions number 9 and number 10. Just some brief context on those items as they relate to the American Recovery Plan Act of 2021. Resolution 9 was prepared by Director Matus with input from Auditor Galloway and a review by the Prosecutor's Office, which is basically the kind of accounting and financial guidance when we begin to work with the $44 million in change. That was a requirement of the grant, so I want to put a public thank you to Michael Matus, Dave Hackman, and Auditor Galloway for helping on the input of that. Resolution number 10 is an advisory panel that when we begin to distribute funds or the commissioners begin to approve projects that consist of the finance director Matus or his designee, Deputy Auditor Michelle Pennell or her designee, and Rhea Benton from Community and Planning Development, just to review projects, eligibility, accounting, and so on. The Prosecutor's Office will serve as legal counsel, and I will serve essentially as staff to that committee to present the projects on record, and then provide the actual recommendations to the commissioners, who will ultimately be the decision makers on which projects are funded. On that note, I am working with John Lights from CCAO on an RFQ that County Commissioners Association of Ohio will hopefully put forth in the near term. That'll essentially bring, in my mind, a legal expert on board to help as a hotline, if you will, for ARPA. If we get in a jam on a project, a reporting issue. So I'm working as president of the County Administrators Association with CCAO to put an RFQ together. So we'll have some help, some technical assistance from a legal standpoint when we move forward over the next 4 years on this program. So thank you.
Very good. Anything for our administrator? Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, I wanted to mention that item number 6, revising the regular meeting schedule, deals with the meeting next week. The meeting next week is going to be September 2nd on Thursday, but instead of 10 a.m., it's being changed to 2 p.m. I just wanted to mention that.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to legal. Sir?
No reports, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this brings us to our old business portion of our meeting. Do we have any old business to come before the board? None being heard. Moving on to new business. Do we have any new business? Under new business, I would like to comment, we are coming up towards the end of the renewal period for NOPEC. Right now, Lake County provides the energy aggregation for electric for our townships. I believe the townships have their own gas aggregation. There have been a number of presentations of late to us individually, and one of the ones that really stood out was the Buckeye Energy Brokers. Commissioner Pletchnik and I were also down in the Columbus area here about a week ago. There was a lot of chatter of less expensive programs. I realized NOPEC does a tremendous amount of advertising, and they have some grants that are clearly built into their rate structures, but I think it might do us well to seriously take a look at do we stay with NOPEC or do we put it out and see if there's something that could cut the costs to our ratepayers in the area. So that is something that is within our authority to do, and I believe we've got the last of the documents. I know there was, I'm looking to our county administrator's report, I know there were some exhibits that we did not have on file and that NOPEC doesn't seem to have on file, so we're just in good faith moving on with what we have. Is that a reasonable statement? Indicating yes? Thank you, sir. So we probably should look to taking that matter up here, whether we stay or go, fairly soon. If there's no other new business to come before the board, we'll bring this to our second public comment portion.
Mr. President?
Sir.
Just because you mentioned you and I were in the Columbus area, I think it's worth saying that we were actually in Licking County for the new commissioners training, and I was grateful to learn from senior commissioners like yourself about the various responsibilities and roles that we take in our community. And it was definitely a wonderful opportunity to meet colleagues from across the state, young and old. And I will say I find it interesting that we have a commissioner young and Erie County has a commissioner old. So, and they're both wonderful commissioners, so it's good to know them both. I know Commissioner Young and Commissioner Old.
Are they both as young as me?
He may be a little younger than you, ironically enough. He told me his greatest fear is that someone named New might run against him, and then they would be able to say, out with the old, in with the new.
Wow. Ouch. All right, on that, moving on. Anyone in the audience wishing to address? Anyone else in the audience wishing to address? Just having a little fun here. John, please. Having a little fun at Brian's expense here this morning.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for being a good sport, Brian.
John Music, 45 Coventry Drive, Painesville Township. I would also like to echo what was said earlier by everybody in regards to our sheriff's department. I mean, here is a copy of the township handbook, and they list all the things. I go through this, and I also looked at the township handbook that Faber and Yost had put out. And you can read through, and you can read through the Ohio Revised Code, what the sheriff's supposed to do, what the townships do, what the county does. You can read back and forth and so forth and so forth. But when I look at this, you know, I cannot see anything more important than police protection and fire protection. Nothing. Even the economy, nothing. And then next I put in road maintenance, because what happens in the wintertime? And you know, a lot of times we have to, in my opinion, we have to put the money where it's needed. And I cannot think of a better thing to have our deputies on the road protecting the people of my Painesville Township. And I compliment the township trustees from Perry for doing a job well done there and doing that. And as we go through all this, just like one other thing, my trustee had sent this out to all the people living in the trustees, their opinion of what was happening with the negotiations regarding the county and the deputies. So, you know, I just wanted to ask, you know, the sheriff had talked about the townships, and I agree with all that, and I thank the clerk of courts for doing what she did and helping monetarily with that. And like I said, everybody involved. And the thing about it is, in my opinion, sooner or later, I mean, right now, there's 22 communities here, and Painesville Township is 6th in population according to the numbers I saw. And the thing about it, with population comes various other things you have to deal with. And again, police and fire protection are number 1, and roads are number 3 in my opinion. So it is what it is. We got to do what we have to do. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, you know, I was looking at Riverside High School, as we all know, they're proposing, and I looked at the June 29th meeting, and they were proposing a new campus there for 2,600 students, and the price was a little short of $136 million. Now, I don't know when they're going to build this. They're talking about it. And so forth, I do not know. But there again, I cannot say anything different, that we have to do what we can afford to do, and the number 1 priorities are police and fire. We have to do that. So I just wanted to get that out there, and I want to thank the sheriff and his deputies for what they do every day, because, you know, just like people say, oh, it's just someone speeding or somebody this. But what happens if they stop somebody on a traffic stop? What else could be involved in that? There could be a lot of other things that may come up just as somebody speeding, let's just say. Could be somebody wanted, could be somebody have drugs, somebody could have this, somebody could have that. So we need to do what we have to do to have law and order in this county totally. So there again, it's a plus. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Brian.
Brian Massey, 8196 Rainbow Drive. I have 2 items for the commissioners today. I did not realize that Mr. Mike Zurin would be sworn in today, but I was going to bring up the $5.3 million in overpaid property taxes. since the former treasurer was no longer willing to speak to the average citizens, and they forced me to go to the prosecutor's office, I was going to ask Mr. Hackman if there is anything that has been done to date on resolving the $5.3 million in the funds that are maintained by the treasurer's office.
I can tell you, my understanding is that there is an ongoing effort to locate, identify the individuals who are owed money. They still own that property, get a credit on that tax bill.
Yes, I would hope that the money goes back to the taxpayers, but since it goes back to the 1980s, it's going to be very problematic, but I would hope that Mr. Zern makes that sort of a priority, and if we can't get it back to the taxpayers, it should go into the general fund. The second item is the local government funds, that I've spent quite a bit of time in providing schedules and trying to understand the alternate formula, and I think I proved that if it was based on population, the city of Mentor is not the problem. When I was speaking to many officials, they said, Brian, you can't get that change because Mentor will not approve it. I don't think that's the case. I think I've proven that if it was just based on population, that Mentor would be due more money. And what the numbers show me is that is basically the municipalities in the western part of the county that are getting unjust enrichment, and as far as I'm concerned, and places like Concord Township, we're basically getting about $6 per person, and that's the lowest amount. So I'm trying to see if we can get a more fair distribution. But am I wasting my time, commissioners, in still pursuing this, or is this sort of a dead issue? Because there's one other thing. If we can't change the alternate formula, I'd like to make sure that if there are any other further distributions, whether it's from the federal government or the state government, that it is not tied into the alternate formula that's been around since 1982. That, to me, seems like that is continuing to be unfair in the distribution funds if we are going to take money from the state and the federal government, if that makes sense, what I said.
If I could take that in reverse order, the state of Ohio literally had to change the distribution of the CARES Act money. The CARES Act money was going to be distributed based on the local government formula. It would have put Lake County at a tremendous disadvantage, as well as one other county, Belmont. At that time, Belmont was taking 0. Lake County is taking just under 11%. The second tranche of funding did go out based on population. It would have financially devastated Lake County government with all the expenses that we were incurring. It would have been bad. I know that the legislature is aware of this and that is a hot topic. I can tell you we are dead lowest. We are at the bottom. Belmont is no longer taking 0. They're at 15% now. So Lake County is literally at the bottom of the list. Most communities are well above 30%. I think there's only 2 counties that are in the 20% range. And I'm just taking this off the top of my head, but we have been researching this.
So it's an ongoing project then, it's not...
It truly is, and also to your point regarding Mentor, I believe also on population, they would not be under this current formula receiving their due share if you also look at Mentor from a value, what's your value of properties in your community, they're not receiving their share as well. Just to be clear on that there's a... You are correct. There has been a misconception. I will freely admit that the city of Mentor actually gets more money than Lake County government in total. But if you're looking at the raw numbers, I see your point.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to just quickly put this into perspective. It's Concord gets $6.81 per person. And Wade Hill gets
$246.
Yes, I noticed that, and I thought that was a little unequal.
It's, of course, they need it so much more desperately. But as you go down the list then, $180 per person, Grand River, $124, Wickliffe, $77, and then Lake County, $4.93 per person to the county. So the county and Concord are really suffering.
Just so that the people that may be watching this is really no one's fault currently. It's not Mr. Galloway when he was in the Concord Township or current trustees. I want to make sure that that's perfectly clear, that there's no they're just like everybody else. They were just a product of what happened in 1982, and they've had to live with it. And I know Mr. Galloway, has done his part in at least getting the townships a seat at the table at this managers and mayors, organization. So I do appreciate that, and I think it's important that we do recognize the people that are doing their part to make it equal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else wishing to address the board? Sir. Now, John, if you're coming up here to tell us we got to tighten our belts some more.
Hey, you read my mind. John Music, 45 Coventry Drive. Now I want to give a thanks to Mr. Gills in regards to, his employees did do a lot of work, and we have heard from Randy and Suzanne over the times, and I've said this a number of times. Years ago I said this, we need to be good stewards, and I thought the department heads in Lake County did a good job for the taxpayers of this county. But I am just saying, like in regards to the Brooman Road Bridge, all the things that went on during that process, he got it done. He got it done. And that's what sometimes we have to do. We've got to work things that we have to do. We've got to find a way to get them completed. So I just want to give thanks to the Lake County department heads and so forth. I believe they are good stewards. And Mr. Powell, the Federal Reserve Bank, was saying they expect hyperinflation the first half or first quarter of 2022, and you hear this. And I called the Council on Aging yesterday to find out what the new 2020 census showed as far as people 60 and over. So I'm looking at that, but the tough part is that there's a lot of people on fixed incomes, and someday everybody in this room will be there. And the thing about it is, yes, there are things we must do, like police and fire protection and roads. Yes, we must find a way to do those things. And I want to thank the county's department heads and the commissioners for being good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
No, thank you. And if I could just echo back to Commissioner Young when he was talking about the assistance program that we're doing with the townships, being within budget. When we're receiving $4 and how many cents per person?
93 cents.
$4, just under $5, $4.93. That's why having partnerships as we have with our clerical courts, and the fact that she's willing to work with us, that she has a crew that are professionals and that they are doing work. Oh, she finally came back in the, there we go. So she's in and out back there. So we're praising you, Faith. You just happened to walk in when we were praising you. So that partnership is so important. Her team is so important at the effectiveness and efficiency of the work that they do. And the fact that they're taking the capacity that they have and continuing to market it to try to grow it even more. So once those fixed costs are paid for, that's where a little bit of good old-fashioned business sense kicks in. So again, economic development and a close partnership with our sheriff and other department heads and other electeds. We're doing a great deal on a modest revenue, so there's that little commercial. Commissioner Plechnik, you look like you want to add something, sir?
Mr. President, I would just add that one misunderstanding that some folks have had with respect to the issue of policing in the townships is based on some creative legal arguments that have been made in many counties throughout Ohio. And I certainly acknowledge that township trustees, as advocates for their communities, like every government subdivision, looks for creative ways to pay for their priorities. And so many trustees over the years have asked, is there another government entity that we can get to pay for our policing? And once again, as the #1 advocate for your community, as someone who used to be a council person, I completely understand that. But what's really important to remember is that these lawsuits, debates, controversies have happened in many other counties many years ago, and the legal arguments are well resolved. But I'd like to ask our Assistant County Prosecutor Dave Hackman if you could restate our county prosecutor's position on the obligation of paying for road patrols in the townships.
Yes, Commissioner. Bottom line, statutorily, the sheriff is a creature of statute. He can only do that which is granted to him through the statutes, no more. And it also sets forth his responsibilities. In the Ohio Revised Code, it's required that the sheriff maintain the peace within the county, respond to emergency situations, but there's no requirement that they patrol per se every day 24/7. There's no requirement that they act as detectives on any particular case. It's to preserve the peace and to respond to emergency situations. That's in a nutshell what the law requires of Sheriff Dunlap. And so then you do get into that monetary issue of, if we want more, how do we deal with that?
And Mr. Hackman, is it correct that both the 11th District Court of Appeals, which is our regional Court of Appeals overseeing Lake County, as well as the Ohio Supreme Court, has heard cases where townships have asked for road patrols to be paid for by the sheriff or the county, and those courts, including our highest court, have ruled that the responsibility to pay for road patrols as desired, as needed, falls on the townships?
That's correct. The 11th District case you refer to, I forget exactly what year, I want to say in the early 1990s, and it was out of Geauga County, where there was a dispute between the Geauga County Sheriff and the Board of Commissioners of Geauga County. And yes, there is Ohio Supreme Court case law on the same subject, and that is case law that is very solid and is the law as it stands today. So Sheriff Liam Bruno is not required to patrol per se and be the detective. He is to preserve the peace. That's his main charge through the revised code.
And is it your opinion that our sheriff's office today is meeting its obligations under the Ohio Revised Code?
Well, my understanding, first of all, yes, he is meeting his obligations. But my understanding is Sheriff Liam Bruno is desirous of, and obviously by the actions today, Perry Township trustees are desirous of increasing that ability to patrol out on the road and maintain a safe community.
Now, I know it's unusual for a law professor to say we need to go beyond the law, but nonetheless, I think it's just important to remember the common sense and the fairness issue here, that we recognize that each community needs to be responsible for its own expenses. It's not fair for people in Mentor to ask people in Wade Hill to pay for their expenses, or people in Perry Township to ask folks in Willoughby Hills to pay for theirs. We really have to recognize that county money comes principally from, because this is a county that's mostly villages and cities, it comes principally from taxes collected in villages and cities. So if a township asks the county to fund out of the general budget their policing needs, they're essentially asking the mayors, the councils, the cities, the villages, and the majority of the county who live there to pay for their policing. When you think about it in those terms, you recognize that's simply not fair. Because just as the folks in Perry Township would be angry if they were asked to pay for Willoughby Hills police, the folks in Willoughby Hills wouldn't be too happy if folks in Painesville Township or Concord or Leroy asked to pay for theirs. And so, in addition to the fact that the law clearly places the obligation on each municipality to pay for their own road patrols and policing, and that's, as our county prosecutor's office says, beyond dispute, it's also a simple matter of fairness that we each have to sustain our own community's needs. So I hope that we can resolve that misunderstanding going forward and instead focus on how can we help the townships to meet that obligation. And that's why I think we're also grateful to the sheriff and to the clerk of courts for coming together with the county to create the COPS grant program, which really allows a bridge to the future, some years for each township to find the resources they need to meet their policing obligations. We really don't want to play lawyer because other counties have had these disputes. They're long resolved. We understand that each municipality has the obligation to pay for its own police. So the relevant question is, how can we work together to get there? And I really hope that more townships will follow the lead of Perry. I really think they've shown great leadership today in reaching out to take advantage of the COPS grant program and starting now to think about, with our increased population, which is a great problem to have. You know, we don't want to be a shrinking, dying community. It's wonderful that our townships are growing and have reached these sizes. That's a testament to the leadership of all the township trustees. But with population, with that greater need comes budgetary challenges too. So I hope that this grant program gives them that bridge to the future, and I want to once again commend Perry Township for really taking the lead.
I think it'd be I'd be falling short if I didn't mention just a few things, caveats based on what John's saying. And what you're saying makes perfect sense, Commissioner. At the same time, it's important to remember that our townships really don't do well on a lot of these funding issues. They don't have an income tax, for instance. And just on the local government funding, you can see at the bottom of the barrel in Lake County are the townships. All of them, there's only in the lower 7 folks on the list, they're all townships except for Madison Village in the lower 7. So there's at the very bottom is Concord, and then move up Painesville, Madison, Leroy, Madison Village, Perry Township. And then we start getting into the cities and the villages. So in almost every category, the townships don't have access to that level of funding. So I think the program that's been created here is really appropriate.
I don't disagree, Commissioner Young, but I would say from my philosophical perspective, lower taxes is actually an advantage. The fact that the townships don't have an income tax make them appealing to individuals and businesses that want to keep more of their hard-earned money. I think that's why you see such prosperity in places like Florida that have no state income tax. So I actually view that as a significant advantage, and that if our cities could find a way to save money and balance their budget on less and lower their taxes, I think you'd find that they would see the kind of growth that Concord has experienced. So I actually think that lower taxes is an advantage.
You're absolutely right. At the same time, though, it does mean less revenue in the hands of the actual. They get, well, we'll talk later. But that's true. Lower taxes are always good.
But I would be remiss, though, just to keep the context. If you look at population, Painesville Township would effectively be our 3rd largest city, and Concord would be our 4th largest. We have townships that are bigger than most of our other incorporated, the villages, the cities. So we need to take that into account when we're talking about this. So there are choices, and we need to recognize that the population of these townships rivals our cities.
That's right.
So,
Mr. President,
Sir.
I'd like to add substance to what you said with respect to choices. There's nothing preventing townships from incorporating as cities and villages. If they viewed a great advantage in having an income tax and raising taxes and building the size of government bigger, the townships are free to do it. But I think they recognize, and I would say wisely so, that smaller government and lower taxes is their greatest advantage. So there's nothing stopping them from becoming the city of Painesville Township or Painesville Part 2, but I think they recognize that lower taxes has actually benefited them and built their population.
That is an option, no question about it.
well, as long as we're talking philosophy, Madison Township, years ago, they saw that there was a connection between safety, economic development, a good quality community. They created, well over 50 years ago, their own police department, and they maintain it to this day. So law enforcement is essential to economic development, safety, good schools, support for all other services. So just, again, as long as we're keeping things in perspective, let's look at the whole picture, not just little pixels.
I think we ought to take a look at the local government funds. That's one of the major reasons I brought up the township issue there.
Fair enough.
Something we need to discuss in more depth, because the equity is just totally out of balance.
Fair enough. Okay, if there's nothing else to come before this board at this time, we do have a request for a executive session. The two purposes stated are real estate, property acquisition, and legal imminent litigation. So with that being said, for the reasons stated, there'll be no business to be conducted afterwards. Do we have a motion to adjourn for the reasons so stated?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Thank you. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you for joining us today.
Congratulations, Mike.